Okay, good to be back at ROOTCON. I've spoken here before, but it's been a little while. I believe I spoke at the Cebu one, or one of the Cebu ones. Anyway, my name is Hughes, and I've been in the IT field for about 43 years now. A lot of that security oriented. From 98 to 2000, I actually created all the training at VeriSign in crypto and PKI and presented it around the world. I then went on to launch a company called Cypher Trust in Atlanta. We went from 6 people in my basement, literally, to 250 people and did an exit for $273 million US. So basically, I wound up coming to the Philippines, somewhere in there, and I've actually been married to a Pinay babe for 22 years, and we've had 3 lovely kids right in Cebu. Unfortunately, none of them are here today. 2 of them attended a previous ROOTCON. We're down in Singapore now. Basically, I have launched a new venture, my 5th startup now, in Singapore. It's called 6Gate. This is not a vendor presentation. This is a techie presentation. I will be demoing one of the products we're creating, but this is not a sales pitch by any means. I'm going to be talking about a very serious development that's happening here that should be of interest to you guys. This is not how to crack it. This is some new strong security that's coming in to fix one of the problems that hackers love to exploit, username and password. So anyway, by the way, I don't know if you can see from where you are, but I'm wearing a real Barong Tagalog, so to honor my prove my Pinoyness here. Okay, all right. Now, basically, the problem that we're addressing here is username and password authentication. Usernames really easy to create and remember, but they're usually not qualified with an internet domain name, and for things like Skype. But they're not really a problem. You can easily change your password. Changing your username may be a little more difficult with some online services and so on. But passwords are really where the problem are. Okay, the real problem is with passwords. The combination of username and password for authentication for an online service. This scheme is pretty much completely broken these days. We can't use it anymore. Humans are notoriously bad at using or coming up with strong but easy to remember passwords. And in theory, you could actually use a different password on every online service. Or if a hacker cracks your credentials on one service, they'll try it on many others, often with success. To complicate things further, you should change your password periodically, and some systems force you to do this. And you can keep a tail of your most recently used in passwords, and you can't reuse those. This makes it even more difficult to keep track of them. Basically, I can hack into an online service and grab their username and password database from their server. A good site will have protected it with hashing and salting using something like PBKBF2. If you're interested, go to that link, and these slides are available through the conference. Anyway, this tells you exactly how to really protect the username and password database on a server. If you're not doing that, you deserve to be hacked. But anyway, all that hashing and salting will just slow me down. It will not keep me from getting it, but it may make it take several minutes per credential set that I try to crack. As long as username and password authentication is used, there's really no defense against mass credential artisan. And most of the big cracks of things like Target and so on have been due to this sort of thing. Somebody grabbed their username and password database and extracted the information from it. There's been a number of those around the Philippines recently too. I won't go into what those are, but you've heard of them, I'm sure. If you send your username and password in clear text, I can see it with Wireshark or various other tools that allow me to do packet capture. I once created a hacking tool that took the output of a sniffer, extracted all the packets for port 110 for POP and 143 for IMAP, put them together like TCP does, and wrote them to a file. I left it running in our office where I was at the time, Secure IT, and wound up with a list of everybody's email logins, including their usernames and passwords. And I showed it to them, and sure enough, I had everybody's password. And so we changed over to using POP3S and IMAP-S immediately. That's sending those names over to TLS. So TLS will help a lot. If you're accessing email without TLS now, again, you deserve to be hacked. Your information is right there for anybody to see. Okay, now, cracking. You can download the 10,000 most commonly used passwords from various places. Search for that phrase and you can get it. Some 97% of all user-generated passwords will be among the first 1,000 of those. And yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is fairly common. This helps cracking hashed passwords, even with salt. One of the things that you can do is a dictionary attack and check the hash of each one of those against the one hashed, and they'll often come up with it. If my clever online system forces me to choose a really complex password, at least one uppercase, one lowercase, one number, one special character, etc., no part of your username, etc., then chances are good you'll never be able to remember your password. So this is a poor choice of how to make your things more secure. Chances are people will write it down, usually on a post-it note under your keyboard. Usually at this point I see a few people looking around, oh my God, he knows what my password is. Okay, well, anyway, this is usually an unusually bad idea to write your password down. So you want to come up with one you can actually remember. The strength of a password is almost entirely determined by its length, not its complexity. Mathematically, the strength of the password is proportional to m to the nth, where m is the length of the password in characters, m is the size of the character set, like 26 for all lowercase and so on, and n is the length of the password. So the strength goes up far more rapidly with n than with m. So as an example, I'll have an example in a minute. But anyway, basically, I could easily put a Trojan horse in your computer and watch everything you're typing. This is difficult, but not impossible to scale up to millions of users. The NSA is starting to do that now as the internet goes dark to them. You can create incredibly strong passwords by taking two names or English words, separating them with a digit or a special character. If you slightly misspelled one or both words, that's even better. Try to exceed 14 characters total. The strength starts going up very rapidly past 14 characters. So raspberry asterisk sugar is incredibly strong, and yet anyone can remember it. How strong? Well, a typical hacker type password, V6 ampersand P2G, has a strength of 72 to the 6. That's about 1.39 times 10 to the 11. The password raspberry sherbet has a strength of 62 to the 17th, which is about 2.95 times 10 to the 30th, which is some 21 quintillion times stronger. Okay, the complex but short one can be cracked in seconds. So don't use funny hacker type passwords. Use ones you can remember, okay? Now, if I'm watching your keystrokes with a logger, even if you use that nice strong password, I've still got your identity. So even if you're sending it into the server with TLS version 1.2 and 2048-bit and so on, you're still dead meat. I've got your password. So passwords are passé. You can't use it anymore. Okay, now, what's the solution? It involves cryptography. Surprise, surprise, I'm a cryptography guy. Okay, not just any old cryptography like AES, but something called asymmetric key or public-private key cryptography is involved. RSA or ECC, the fun stuff. The stuff that makes SSL TLS work, the same stuff that makes S-MIME work, and digital certificates and PKI. It's actually part of SSL since SSL 3.0. Surprise, I bet you didn't know there was cryptographic authentication in SSL. Symmetric key cryptography uses the same key to encrypt and decrypt. That's intuitive. Like I lock my apartment with a key this morning, I unlock it with the same one when I go home that evening. Asymmetric key cryptography uses a matched pair of keys, a public key and a private key. They're generated together and they're related to each other mathematically. You encrypt with either of them, you can only decrypt with the other one. You can't even decrypt with the one you encrypted with. Very non-intuitive. Physical keys don't work that way. PKI embeds the public key in a digital certificate that has info needed to verify it's really the public key of the person it claims to be, and publishes it in a directory like LDAP for anyone to be able to use. It's a public document. The private key is best kept in a crypto token and never even loaded onto your computer. Okay, and I've got a crypto token here. We'll talk about those later. Okay, now, how does SSL TLS work? I'm not going to go into enormous detail here. I don't have time. I used to teach this stuff for about a week at VeriSign. But anyway, there's three phases in an SSL TLS handshake. First, the server authenticates to the client. I'm really AmazonWomen.com. The client authenticates itself to the server. I'm really one it's used from 6gate. The client creates a symmetric session key and securely shares it with the server, which will be used to encrypt everything after the handshake in both directions. Today, the client-to-server authentication usually happens after the TLS handshake in the encrypted tunnel using username and password authentication. So we've got cryptographic authentication from server to client, but not from client to server. If you think about it, when you log into a typical secure server, it still asks you for a username and password. And that's protected in the encrypted tunnel, but you still have to type it in. Today, let's see. We want to use the real phase 2 SSL during the handshake to encrypt with a client digital certificate. Not many people use that today. It's been around since SSL 3.0, but it requires something called a client digital certificate. Okay, now what's a server digital certificate? VeriSign's business was selling server certificates. 99% of the revenue came from that. We hardly ever sold any client certificates. They haven't really solved the problem with how to do those. My new company is solving that problem. You can buy them from online CAs like DigiCert or whatever. You can get them free from Encrypt Everything. If you guys don't know about Encrypt Everything, look it up. This is a really cool thing where some people have made server certs essentially free for anybody who wants one. But anyway, basically you can create your own with OpenSSL, but those are not trusted. They're not public hierarchy certs, and they're kind of like counterfeit money. You can spend them, but basically you can also fool people. It's a digital document that binds the server's public key to identifying information, like the server's fully qualified domain name, like www.women.com, who issued the server cert, digicert.com, an expiration date, various other information. It's in a standard, which is in RFC 5280, going back to the X509 certificate. That binding is done by the certification authority, a trusted third party, digitally signing the certificate. Using the information in the cert, I can check if it's trusted, which means it chains up to a trusted root cert that's already in your browser, whether it's currently valid or has expired. And you can also check the revocation status, whether the CA has revoked the certificate saying this is no longer valid. A secure server only needs one server cert for any number of users. You can have 1 million users using a single one server cert. Okay, now, as far as a server certificate here, let me bring up a typical server cert here. Okay, this is Blackbird. This is our new email client, and it has something in it called a CertDB, which is allows me to look at the certificates here. And so if I look at ws1.demo.sixscape.net here, okay, this is a server certificate. And if I look in the details, down under subject, you notice it has common name equals ws1.demo.sixscape.net. I could have other information in there like the company name, the locality, the country, and things like that. But the basic common name part of the subject distinguished name is a fully qualified domain name. So that binds the fully qualified domain name to the public key for this particular certificate. Okay, and you install that, and that enables SSL TLS on the server. Okay, so that is a typical server cert there. And they're available all over the place.
Sorry, Lawrence, is it alright to cut you off for a while? This is our ROOTCON tradition.
Yes.
Everybody knows this. For newcomers, this is a ROOTCON tradition. Please.
Okay.
So we got the skull thing now.
And you've got the good stuff too, Jack Black. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We would like to thank Nathan for the good stuff. Nathan, thanks, man. All right, let's give him a round of applause. Thanks all for you, folks.
All right. Now, how does phase 1 work with SSL TLS? At the start of the handshake, the client and the server negotiate various things, like what kind of crypto they both speak and so on. The server then sends its server certificate to the client. This is in the clear. The client checks the server certificate trust, validity, and verification status, aborts if it fails. The client creates a short random string, like 16 characters, encrypts it with the server's public key from the server cert, and sends the result to the server as a crypto challenge. The server decrypts the crypto challenge with its private key and returns the result to the client as a challenge response. If the challenge response matches the original string, that's proof that the server has the private key corresponding to the public key in the server cert, without actually revealing that private key. This gives you strong server-to-client authentication. That's how SSL TLS works. Now, what? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay, the Jack Black's already doing his job. Okay, so that's how the SSL TLS phase 1 works. Now, crypto challenge. We're back out of PowerPoint for a second here. This is a real cool little program I wrote in C#. If anybody would like a copy of it, I'll be glad to share with you. But basically, this is, let's see, hopefully it will come up in a second. Come on, sync back up. There we go. Okay, now this is a little application I wrote in C#.net, and I've loaded up a public-private key pair here from a PFX file. Here's a random string. I could actually create any number of different little random strings here. And if I hit this button, it's going to encrypt that random string with the public key from that PFX file. And you notice that instead of getting about 16 bytes of output, I've got 344 bytes. So asymmetric key encryption tends to be very inefficient. Okay, come on, sync back up. I may have to reduce my resolution here in a minute. But anyway, in fact, let's go ahead and shrink that down. Maybe it'll work better. Okay. I'm doing 1920 by 1080 at the moment. Let's back off a little. That'll work be more reliable. You can read it better also. Okay, so basically when I encrypt this string with my public key, I wind up with this unbelievable string. And that's actually a binary thing that's been encoded in base64 here. Now if I hit decrypt, this is going to decrypt that using the private key associated. And there we go. We got the original string. So that's what goes on when you do an SSL connection or various other places for either the client to server or server to client authentication. So I actually wrote this to figure out how to use the code to encrypt with RSA and decrypt with it when I was writing the Blackbird secure email program. But it's a very handy thing for understanding how that crypto challenge works. Okay, now back into PowerPoint. Okay, now, you've heard about what a server certificate is. What is a client certificate? It's like a server certificate, but it has different information associated with the public key. It's a digital document that binds the client's public key to identifying information, like the user's name and email address, who issued the server cert, like Komodo, and expiration date and various other information. The standard involved is still X509 version 3, or C5280. The binding is done by the certification authority, whoever issued the cert. And using that information, I can check to see if it's trusted, change up to a trusted root cert, just like server, whether it's currently valid or it's expired, its certification status, whether the issuing authority has revoked it or not. Anyone presented with a client certificate should check all of those things. Every user of a secure server requires a distinct client cert that identifies them. Whoa, that's a whole big difference. So, for instance, if somebody has a single server cert for Amazon.com, they would need a separate client cert for every one of their customers. It could be tens of millions of them. So the number of client certs is many orders of magnitude larger than server certs. This changes the rules completely. VeriSign, for instance, was one giant server that issued server certs. That's fine. There may be 2 million secure servers in the world. They could handle all of them with no trouble. On the other hand, there might be billions of client certificates. Each person could actually have dozens of client certificates. So we could be talking tens of billions of certificates out there. One server is not going to be able to handle that. So we came up with a new PKI at my new company that is a distributed model similar to DNS. Each internet domain can have a separate server, and so that can scale up to any number of client certs. Okay, now, client cert, again, we're going to exit PowerPoint for a second here. Got to bring up the Blackberry in here, and go into the certificates. And here is a typical client cert. Okay, this is basically, again, the subject. Now, I have E equals, and then my email address. CM, common name is my full name, Lawrence Hughes, not a fully qualified domain name. Organizational units development, organization 6K communications, locality Singapore, the city is Singapore, and the country is Singapore. Okay, so that's what a client cert looks like. There's no difference other than what's in the distinguished name of the subject. Okay, so but you have to verify all those things when you issue a client cert. Okay, so basically we're going to be using client certs in the future to authenticate ourselves, not username and password. Okay, so going back into PowerPoint here. Okay, so how does the phase 2 work? This is the magic new thing. If you've configured strong cloud authentication on your server, after phase 1 is complete, the server then says, well, okay, you know who I am, who the hell are you? Send me your client cert. So the client then allows the user to select the client cert from available certs and sends it up to the server. The server then checks the client cert trust validity and verification status. The server cert then creates a short random string, just like before. It does the same crypto challenge, but in reverse. The client decrypts the crypto challenge with its private key, sends the result to the server. If the challenge response matches the original string, that proves that the client has the private key corresponding to the presented certificate without actually revealing that key. This gives you strong client-to-server authentication. That's phase 2. Okay, now phase 3 is where you exchange the symmetric session key. After the authentication is done, the client creates a symmetric session key and initialization vector for the negotiated symmetric key algorithm, for instance, AES. The client then encrypts the symmetric key and initialization vector to the server's public key from its server cert and sends it to the server in encrypted form. The server then decrypts the encrypted session key and initialization vector with its private key. Voila, you've now securely shared a session key. So now client and server have a shared common key that they can encrypt all the remaining traffic with. So after everything is sent by either end is encrypted with that key, and the other end receives the encrypted traffic and decrypts it with the same symmetric session key. A new session key is generated periodically so that you don't kind of wear out the key's usefulness, and so it's periodically rekeyed. Okay, now I'm going to show how this actually works on a real server, and I really hope my Wi-Fi is working here. We'll see. And by the way, I'm running Windows 8.1. I'm not a big fan of Windows 10. It's the first pre-hacked operating system. Okay. Microsoft has conveniently hacked that for you. Okay, now, let's see. I'm going to bring up a incognito window here. And I'm going to type in https://ws1. There we go. Come on, work. There we go. Okay, now what's happened is I've gone through phase 1. The server has authenticated itself to me with a server cert. I've acknowledged, yep, it's a good server cert. So the server has then gone and says, okay, send me your client cert. Well, I've actually got quite a few client certs on this computer, and so it gives me a list to choose from. Well, I'm going to, if I actually look at this, I can actually see Alice's cert there. But I'm going to go ahead and double-click on Alice, and now, basically, Alice's cert is sent up to the server. No username typed in, no passwords involved at any point. Basically, it's then authenticated my certificate, and by doing that crypto challenge, and now the server can actually see everything that's in that certificate. So we've got the complete issuer, the complete subject, and so there's Alice's name, her email address, per city and state and so on. And you can even tell when it was issued and when it expires, the key bit size, and private key bit size and so on. And this is the issuer. It happened to come from DigiCert, which is a valid issuing authority. So basically now, instead of doing a username and password and checking the password against the database, you receive this client certificate and you go through this validation, which happens automatically in the server. And when your application starts running, you're already authenticated. And the server has some system variables with this information in it. And you can use it to actually determine who logged in. There's no need to ask them for the username. So this is the way things are going to work in the future. Now, especially if you happen to keep the private key for Alice in this token, there's no known way to attack that. This is used in the military. The US DoD does authentication to websites that way. We are now making it easy for banks and things like that to issue client certificates to their customers. In fact, shortly, a certain agency here in the Philippines involved with collecting taxes will be getting several million little tokens like this with certificates in them that we create to allow people to authenticate to their website. Okay, now basically, this is a major advance forward in how you authenticate people. And this is going to make an enormous difference in security. And I'm sorry, I can't tell you how to hack that. I don't know. Now, if the private key is kept in a soft token, which means just a file in your computer in the certificate database, there are ways to attack it. It's not simple, but there are ways to attack it. If the private key is kept in a security token, this is actually an interesting little thing. I'll talk about it in a minute. But the private key in here can be used, but there's no way in the world to ever get it out. Okay? Now, basically, so if it's in one of these tokens, there's no known attack against it currently. So how do I get a client cert? Well, some CAs, like Komodo, DigiCert, and so on, issue them. They're often listed as S-MINE email certificates. It's the same certificate. There are free ones so you can authenticate your email address. There are also ones that validate your name, your email address, the company, etc. They typically charge for those. Okay, so the more they have to validate of your identity before they issue the cert, the more they're going to charge you. 6.8 has created a new CA, ID Central, lets you request and download client certificates via a secure protocol called Identity Registration Protocol, which has been issued port 4604 by IANA. If you think it's hard to get a public IPv4 address today, you should try to get an actual port number. There's a very small number of them, like 30,000 or so, for the entire lifetime of the internet. And so you have to really convince them that you've come up with something interesting before they actually allocate a port number for you. We actually have one officially issued by IANA. Like 25 is for SMTP. Okay, IRP-enabled clients can let you do all these issues, like requesting a certificate, requesting it, retrieving it, and so on, all over the secure protocol. We're getting away from web. Web is too easy to hack. I'm sorry, this is another area where you guys have had it easy for all this time. Hacking HTTP is for high school kids. This is nothing to it. And so we're getting away from web. We're making our own secure protocols layered directly over TLS and TCP. And these are nowhere near as easy to hack as HTTP. So IRP-enabled clients are the key to doing this. We also can publish the certificate in LDAP and obtain other certificates, client certs from LDAP. So LDAP allows you to build kind of a common shared library of these certificates. Now, what is the Blackbird secure email client? Well, ever since our buddy Edward Snowden revealed that all U.S. software has been weakened with bad crypto algorithms and or backdoors, and in fact they're required to lie about it by law, basically there's a lot of interest in real secure software now. So this is why we've created a company outside of the U.S. to create real secure software out of Singapore. And we've actually talked with the people in the Singapore government that would be responsible, equivalent to NSA, and we said, are you guys going to require us to put backdoors in or weaken algorithms? They said, heavens no. Make it as strong as you can and bring lots of money into Singapore. I like that attitude. Okay, that's a whole different attitude than the U.S. and Europe has now. So we're going to be creating this and selling it worldwide, and it's going to be the first real trusted crypto in quite a while. And so we've created something that's a complete replacement for Outlook that uses all trusted crypto, and anybody that's interested, like a military, can actually request and get a copy of the complete source code for all the crypto and verify it to their own satisfaction. There's no backdoors. Okay, now 68 has created this thing called Blackbird, as in the SR71, if any of you guys know that, with trusted crypto, IRP integration with our ID Central, and so on. That's a personal address book, LDAP AD integration, MS Certificate Database Manager, Crypto Token Manager, etc. It can create S-MIME secure messages with attachments and send them via SMTP, via FTP, or SFTP. This is something new. We've extended S-MIME to FTP and SFTP. So you can actually create an S-MIME message, and then rather than send it by SMTP to a mail server, you can send it over FTP or SFTP to a mail server. You can also write it as a file, for instance, to your Dropbox. I'll do that here in a minute so you can actually see that. It's dramatically easier to configure and use S-MIME with Blackbird than with Outlook. I've got about a 27-page PDF file that explains how to set up Outlook to use with digital certificates and S-MIME. It's just way too complicated. We've extended S-MIME to other protocols, just like SSL-TLS was earlier. Originally, SSL-TLS was only for HTTP. Well, S-MIME originally, everybody thinks, oh, it's just for email. Well, the concept applies to other things. And so we're not only doing with email, we're making S-MIME with XMPP, or Jabber. So every Jabber message will actually be S-MIME digitally signed and encrypted on one client, go through existing XMPP clients or servers transparently. At the other end, you'll decrypt it and check the signature. This is S-MIME for chat. We're the first ones to ever actually do that. Believe it or not, there's actually an RFC 3923, I ran across it, explaining exactly how to do that. Nobody's ever implemented it before. Okay, PKI is kind of difficult. Most people don't know how to actually make it work. But basically, this is going to be the most secure chat ever available. The Defense Science and Technology Agency in Singapore is very excited about what we're doing. They said, this is the first real secure chat we've ever seen. We want it. Keep working. You know, so they're going to be using it. It's dramatically, let's see, there we go. Now, this is a real quick demo of Blackbird. It does a lot of things, so I can't demo all of it during this time. And again, this is not really a sales pitch, but just to show you some cool stuff that can be done. I'm going to bring up Blackbird again here. Okay, now basically these are email accounts, these are FTP accounts, these are LDAP accounts, and these are IRP accounts. Now, if I go to this inbox here, this is Alice's inbox, and these are the emails she's received. If I do something like create new email, and I select her name out of the personal address book, that then loads in not only her name and her email address, but also her digital cert necessary for encrypting. So I can say, save this as an encrypted and signed email, and it should come up in a second. Okay, here we go. So I've actually fetched her email address and her digital cert, and I'm now ready to actually create that. Now, if I said send, that would go out as an SMP message to Alice's secure email server. But instead, I'm going to say save as a file. And it's going to say, okay, where do you want to save that? Well, I want to save that under my documents. So I click on that, and whoops, let's see. Actually, I'll get the previous one, because I forgot to hit encrypt and sign on that. But anyway, basically, if we go look now in that, okay, under documents, okay, here we go. Here's the one I just did. Instead, I'm going to look at the previous one here. If I open that with Notepad, oops, that's the previous one. This is what a S-MIME message looks like. The headers are in plain text, but the body is completely digitally signed and encrypted, and it's basically binary gibberish. It happens to be rendered in base64, but that's what a secure message looks like. So if you were to hack into that, you wouldn't really be able to tell much. You'd be able to read the subject, but not a whole lot more, and when it was sent, okay? Now, on the other hand, if I open that with Outlook, for instance, open with Outlook, there we go. We just pulled it into Outlook, and it's digitally signed, and the signature is valid, and it's encrypted. So basically, it's perfectly compatible with existing S-MIME things like Outlook. Okay, so now, if I wanted to send you something securely through Dropbox, I could use this client to actually encrypt it into an S-MIME message, save it as a file in Dropbox. You can then open it, pop it into your email client. .eml, if you double click on it, pops into your S-MIME email client, Outlook or whatever. So basically, this is a way to communicate securely through non-secure channels like Dropbox. I can also attach files to that, and those get encrypted as well. So these are new ways to encrypt things, to communicate securely. Okay, that, by the way, is the SR-71 Blackbird. Amazing plane. Look it up sometime if you're interested in avionics. There we go. The SR-71, by the way, was created by the Skunk Works at Lockheed, and for 50 years it has been the fastest, highest flying jet-powered plane in the world. Nobody's managed to break it. So basically, we named our email client after that amazing piece of technology. And in fact, our development group is called the Skunk Works, in honor of them. Okay, now, how do I protect my private key? By default, when I create a key pair, when creating the private key is created on my computer and loaded into my Microsoft Certificate database. It can be protected with no or weak or strong protection. Strong protection requires me to enter a passphrase every time I use the private key. That could still be hacked. It's better to keep your private key in a FIPS 140-2 certified crypto token. These cost about $10 in even reasonable quantity. Go into any USB connection. There are ways to connect them to phones too. We're working on that now. Okay, now basically once the private key is in the token, there's no way to get it out, but you can use it via PKSS11. And in fact, this actually has a relatively small amount of memory in it, only 64K bytes, but it's also got a crypto engine. It can do RSA and PKSS11 and so on. So to use it, you actually send the thing you want to encrypt or decrypt over USB into it. It encrypts or decrypts it, and then you retrieve the result over USB and use it. So the private key never leaves this once it's loaded in here. It's a roach hotel. The private key goes in, but it never comes out. But you can use it. Okay, a crypto token looks like a thumb drive, or it can look like a smart card, contact or contactless. When you plug in a crypto token, you have to supply a passphrase to allow access to the private keys in it. Once applied, the key material appears to be in the Microsoft Certificate database, but in reality it's still in the token. This is an advanced part of the Microsoft Certificate database. Now I'm going to switch back here to Windows. Let's see. And I'm going to plug this in. Hello, switch over. Takes a long time for this thing to sync, sorry. Now, we're back in Windows. Okay, now basically if I bring up Blackbird one more time here in the certificates, basically these are the certificates that are in there right now. Now if I insert this into USB, it powers up, it now actually connects to it, and right now it's saying, you haven't changed the access phrase from when it was manufactured, so not the default one. Do I want to change it? No, I don't really. And so it's going to say, okay, if you use it, then I'm going to challenge you for that passphrase. And so basically now, if I bring up in Blackbird, okay. When I bring up certificate database, and we're was actually loaded in. It appears to be in the certificate database. In reality, it's in the token here. And I can look at it, and I can use it and so on. But if I remove the token, it will disappear from my Microsoft certificate database. So it's when I take it out, it's no longer in there. It can't even be used. So basically, this is how to take it up to the military grade. You load your certificate in there, and in fact, in this, I actually have a token manager here, which can look inside the token. So if I type in the magic passphrase here and say connect, okay, this is the certificate that's in there. And basically, I can actually load new certificates into it. I can import certificate into it. I can export certificates from it, but not the private key, and so on. So basically, the token manager allows me to load certs into that and retrieve them. Once it's loaded in there, I can just plug it into any computer, and that certificate and private key is there and can be used very securely. So this is what's replacing username password. This private key and certificate associated with the client, not with the server. Okay. So we're making it really easy for people to actually use these things and generate them and so on. Okay, back into PowerPoint for just a few minutes here and I'll be done. Okay, that's how to protect it. That's the cryptographic token right there, and that's what it looks like. And it looks like a thumb drive, but in reality there's a lot more going on in it. Now, strong client authentication. Anything that uses SSL TLS today can in theory use strong client authentication. The username comes from the client cert, no password or second factor authentication is needed. The crypto challenge is far stronger than any password in 2FA. All by itself, millions of times stronger. The username comes from, let's see, I can use it in web apps, Windows apps, or mobile device apps. It can be used for authentication for SMTPS, IMAPS, LDAPS, and so on. In fact, a few mail servers are already supporting this. SendMail and Postfix and Dovecot already support strong client authentication instead of username and password for email. So a lot of people are working towards shifting away from username and password to the strong client authentication. SCA is the future of authentication for all applications. With private keys kept in hardware crypto tokens, this is literally military-grade security. It's sufficient for protecting nuclear missile launch codes. Okay? And the US DoD does that routinely. There's no need for username password database on the server. You might need a username database so that once you get the username out of the certificate, you can check and verify, yep, this is a real user. But there's no need for a password on there. So hackers cannot retrieve the password out of the username password database anymore. Mass credential harvesting is over. Sorry guys, I know that's one of your favorite tricks, but after people switch over to using strong client authentication, you're going to have to find other ways to hack systems. That way is going away. A hacker could see everything I'm typing, sniff all network traffic, and still cannot assume identity unless they can own that private key and have the passphrase necessary to unlock the token. Without my private key and passphrase, they cannot assume my identity in any way. This is far stronger. Okay, now in case you're wondering what inspired our name or logo, this makes it pretty obvious right there. Replace the N with a 6 in the color and you've got us. Netscape Communications made enormous contributions to the IPv4 internet with the first viable web browser, first viable web server, first LDAP server, the SSL protocol, and other things. There were some brilliant people there. Now, basically, Sixgate Communications is doing the same kind of contributions to the IPv6 internet. And with IRP, First Certificate Management Protocol that actually has authentication, an authenticated IP address registration mechanism that allows even your phone to have a server on it and automatically registers IPv6 address securely from anywhere in the world. Extending S-MIME protocols other than SMTP and so on, and end-to-end direct connectivity. Okay, so that's basically what we're doing. So I appreciate your listening. It's kind of a long talk. But anybody who happens to know A.E. Van Vogt, there is a great science fiction book called The Weapon Shop Sedisher, in which they had these weapons, these energy weapons, and in there that they kept saying the right to buy energy weapons is the right to be free. So I've extended that a little bit. The right to buy information weapons is the right to be free. So we're purveyors of fine information weapons since 2014 when we started, and we believe that privacy is a fundamental human right that should be available to anyone. And so that's basically our goal. We're 2 years old now. We're up to 10 people. We're looking for a staff hacker, and we're doing our first VC round in about a week. So we're off and running, and so if you're interested in joining in the fun, get in touch with me. I'll be here both days. Okay? So thank you very much, and I'm glad to